Guys, welcome back to my channel. After a little bit of a break, during the international break, because everybody's just bored out of their minds. But we are back, and we're going to hit you with a lot of Chelsea transfer news. And before you all come at my throats, no, Christian Pulisic is not being sold, but that's what the report is. And obviously it's a bollocks report, but we'll get into that detail later. But I can't explain, apparently Pulisic's being sold, but it's not true. So, that's a bit too long for a title, isn't it? So, let me off. We'll talk about it in a minute. But there's a lot of things to get through because Antonio Rudiger genuinely seems like he's leaving Chelsea, which is very unfortunate. I mean, hey, there's always twists and turns in football, so maybe we're wrong and we sit here in a few weeks' time and he sign a new contract. But as of right now, it's looking more likely that he will leave, which is unfortunate. First of all, because he's one of the best centre-backs in the world. But number two, because we need to think about how to replace him, because it's not easy to replace one of the best in someone's position. So, that is a problem that we're going to discuss today. We're interested in, I'm going to try to pronounce it properly, Aurelien Tchouameni. Tchouameni, basically, right? We're interested for him from Monaco, right? And Hakim Ziyech might apparently be going to Dortmund. So those are the main topics that we're going to discuss today. To discuss those topics, I'm joined by three very, very special guests. Let's go in reverse order of what you can see on screen. First of all, of course, Mr. Clutch. Thank you for joining us, as always. How you been? You just told us off air, just very bored during the international break, but excited that at least the Chelsea are back fairly soon?
It's always a pleasure, Laurenz. But yeah, I'm very happy that this is the last week of international break. I'm probably going to watch the USA game later and pray that Christian Pulisic doesn't get hurt, because we know that they're probably going to play him. But other than that, I'm just really excited for this weekend for Chelsea to come back.
Exactly. And to be fair, I feel like, is it just everyone's basically just playing 2 games this international break, right? So at least we've gone away from these 3 games, which is crazy. So everyone should also be back with the squad a little bit earlier than over the last 2 international breaks. So a little bit of positive things, especially because we have an early kickoff away game on Saturday, which obviously the first game back from international duty is never the type of kickoff time you want to have. But we're also joined by Mr. CFC Pies, as I deemed him earlier when we were talking, our news guy. So of course we had the news guy involved when we talk about news, right? So, Pies, first of all, thank you for joining us as always, obviously. But how's the international break been for you? At least a few interesting pieces of news, or just dead?
Pretty dead, to be honest. I mean, there's not been much coming out. Actually, there's been a lot coming out, but a lot of rubbish, like a lot of crap. Not much coming out that's been really worthwhile listening to. A couple of things we can talk about today that maybe are, but overall pretty dead. I mean, England beating San Marino 10-0 wasn't even entertaining. It was just like, yeah, like cool. Even Martin Tyler was not even like, he was commentating on it like he'd watched that game 500 times. So yeah, I mean, overall just pretty bored, to be honest, but at least Chelsea are back soon. But yeah, me being my pessimistic self, 12:30, first game back, not looking forward to it really, but we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. Yeah, exactly. We will see what happens. And of course, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we're also joined by Mr. CFC Gem, host of GNA TV. See, you write it all down so perfectly for me to just say. It's just like, see what it says for him on screen. Of course, check out his channel. Link is down in the description. We did a video late last week on his channel, or a live stream, a Lampard-Gerrard debate, not as managers, don't worry, but as players. So that was good fun. So if you haven't seen that, go back over to his channel and check that out. Gem, how's the international break been for you? But also, how are you feeling about these news? Anything that excites you?
Not really. I found it really boring. I always find it really boring. But like you, the only thing that kept me going was the Formula One. So Lewis Hamilton doing what he did yesterday kind of,
exactly,
I'll say built up my mood a bit more, So yeah, I mean, look, I'm just happy that we've got some Premier League football back. I think I just don't like these international breaks, and I don't even like our players playing in international just purely because of injuries and other things, as we've seen recently with other internationals. But yeah, I'm just glad that we can actually start talking about Chelsea, talking about actually having a fully fit forward line, providing Pulisic doesn't get injured tonight. Fingers crossed. But yeah, good.
Fingers crossed, touch wood, all sorts of things. Not exactly that. No, but I agree. It is good that we're back. But the greatest news of all, that was the last international break for the next over 3 months. So, that's brilliant, if you ask me. So I'm excited for it from their perspective. And, Jem mentioned something good there. Let's start it off with some news that isn't transfer news. Romelu Lukaku is back in full training. So, if that's not the news you wanted to hear, I don't know what is, because, for once, we were given a timeline when a player got injured. We're like, yeah, probably after the international break. And here we are, a few days before the end of the international break. The man's back in full training and hopefully ready to be selected against Leicester on Saturday. So, at least for once, those, statements came true. No idea where Timo Werner is. No idea when he will be back. No clue. But we'll get into that later. Obviously, we've already in the past spoken about the whole Antonio Rudiger stuff, but in the past was before Matt Law, and I'm not saying Matt Law is gospel, but before Matt Law at least shared his opinion on the information that he has up until now. And he said, in his opinion, he thinks Antonio Rudiger is likely to leave Chelsea. And now this is a very different story to us having debated for weeks and weeks and who's in the wrong? Is Rüdiger asking too much money? Are Chelsea not offering too much money or offering enough money? Will he stay anyway? Now we're in a position where we have to maybe start fearing that he will actually leave. I'll go with you first, Pice, because, maybe I've missed a bit of, news here and there and I'm slightly blowing things out of proportion. But it's not looking good, is it? And I still don't really know what the problem is. We know the problem is not meeting on wage demands. But what we don't know is the report that we've offered him £140,000 a week, is that part true? Or is the part true that he wants to be paid as much as Lukaku is paid? Because if that's the difference, 140 to that is a big difference. But if he just wants 200K, I'm like, why aren't we just giving it to him? So that's kind of why it's super difficult when talking about this topic to know who to be upset about or who do we like to blame for this. So unfortunately, I now sit here, I'm like, well, if he is to leave, cheers, lad. Hopefully we'll win the league before you go. But we have to just find a replacement. No hard feelings either way. But just because we don't know, obviously, maybe by the time we hit May, we do know more where the problem was. But as of now, we don't, do we, Pice?
Not really, but if I had to take a guess, it's just like you said, it's wage demands. I think Rüdiger's probably asking for a lot of money. The exact sum we don't really know, but I mean, the Athletic have said previously in articles he wants to be among the top paid owners of the club. So if you think of the ones we know, then that's Kante, who's on something like 300,000, if I'm right. Lukaku is definitely up there. And I listened to the Straight Out of Cobham podcast today, which has the Athletic guys on. It's not always the best for news, but sometimes they do episodes around news. Sometimes they just do previews of games and stuff. But Liam Toomey was on there for the first time in ages because he's been quite busy. But he's basically just saying the things that we're saying, it's not looking great. He thinks it's going to go down to the wire. And, he made an example of saying, imagine if PSG came in and said, here's £400,000 a week, like they've done with multiple players. He says, he don't even think Chelsea would or should offer him even half of that, which is what's that, 250, something like that, or I don't know, what is that, half of 425 or 400?
200K.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if we're talking different currencies now.
Yeah, but around that. So 200, 225K, something like that. He doesn't think Chelsea will offer that because he said so far the indication is that Marina has shown just that, she's not going to offer him what he wants. So obviously things can change, but it's not looking likely. And, Rüdiger's camp and Rüdiger himself, the impression I'm getting from all this news and the updates we do have is that they're not ones to budge. Marina's not the one to budge. So I feel like it's just going to be a mutual split. Rüdiger's quotes the other day said, he's just focusing on the team right now. He owes it to the club. These are all quotes that make me think, yeah, he's gone. It's already decided, to be honest. That's my personal opinion. I feel like he's going to go, personally.
Yeah, and to be fair to you, I think you had that feeling already a few weeks ago when a lot of us were maybe still more positive on that. Now, CFC Florida, by the way, I have seen your super chat. I will just highlight it when we get to talk about Pulisic because it makes a little bit more sense to, get it in there. Sportswire, big up yourself. Appreciate you. And obviously everybody else in the chat. And by the way, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, smash that like button, and, we're on the road to 15,000 subscribers, so every new subscriber counts. So get subscribed if you haven't. Smash the like button. Helps me out with the algorithm. So just one click of a button. I quickly, before I put it to Clutch and Jem on this topic of Rüdiger, I quickly want to talk about, I think I might have mentioned it previously, but the whole wage numbers that we sometimes get from the media, right? Like Pi said there, Kante is on, we think, around 290 or 300,000 pounds a week. We know that Lukaku is up there. But the problem that there always is with these numbers, this is VJ Sportswire. I know I still need to get back to you, VJ. I'm very sorry. I will very, very soon. Trust me. I do apologize, mate. The problem is that they mix whether we get the information of before tax or after tax wages. Because I remember very well, I screenshotted it and I've read it so many times that I still know now. The day Lukaku to Chelsea was confirmed, Fabrizio Romano tweeted that Romelu Lukaku would be on 12 million euros a year after tax, which, if you break it down by 52, is 230,000 in euros, which makes it just over 200,000. But when I see that, then I'm heavily questioning, is Kante really on 290k? Would Kante really be on essentially nearly 100k more than Lukaku? I'm not sure. And then I've also seen a number about Lukaku where it's like 325k a week. But I'm like, well, but that can't be after tax either, because if you make that much money, you're obviously in the highest, tax bracket, which means, you have to pay tax for half of what you earn, essentially. Right? So if it is 230, double of that would still not be 325, would we? So I have no idea. I have no idea how much anybody is actually getting paid. Some reports will tell you Chilwell is the highest paid player at 190. Well, clearly he's not. Some others would say that Saul, his Atletico contract is 198,000. Again, not sure if pounds or euros, but are we paying all of that? Are we not? I have no idea. So that is the problem, because we can sit here and say, oh, we've only offered 140, or we've only offered 170. And Rüdiger wants 200, but does he want 200 after tax? Probably. But when he wants to be among the highest earners, who are we even talking about? Are we talking about Kante? And if we're talking about Lukaku, are we talking about 200k? Are we talking about 300k? Who the hell knows is my problem. So, Jem, with all of me waffling about these things, about not knowing who gets paid what, I'm pretty sure we've spoken about the whole Rüdiger scenario in the past as well. But now you sit here and we probably have to think that he's going to leave.
It's not looking good, is it? Let's be serious. No. And I'm past the thing of it has to be that he wants, Chelsea not giving him 200k. I don't think it's that. I think it's more than that. I think they're looking for around anything between 220 to 230 plus. I think, and I think Chelsea have probably compromised. Probably said, look, we're not going to go that high, but this is what we can do. I do think Chelsea have been close to that 200k. I think Chelsea have given them something, but this is all assumptions at the end of the day. We don't actually know what it is. The thing I tend to do is just do my research, just listen to bits of everything, bits of what maybe Pi says, someone else says, and just make an image of myself. But the one thing is for sure is that I think he's going to go. The only way he doesn't go is that it gets to January, he goes and talks to PSG, and goes and talks to Real Madrid, and these individuals do not give him what he wants. And then it's a case of, well, do you want to stay with Chelsea at what they've offered you, or go to a PSG who have given you a little bit more, let's just say, than what Chelsea have done? And I just think there's more to the story. What I'm saying is that where we are at this current stage in terms of where, what he's going to do, it looks like he's going by January. At the end of January, it could be a point of that Chelsea have come to an agreement with Rüdiger. And that might be just because the agents have gone about, and maybe that interest isn't there as much as we're hearing it along social media, or he's being offered something that he still thinks isn't enough for him. So I'm very open-minded about it. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, if he goes for me. I don't hold the board at fault for it, especially if it's more than 200k. If it is the situation that he wanted 230, 240, 250, and we were just like, we can't do it. I understand it. I accept Rüdiger going, if he finds that wage elsewhere and going and getting on with his career. But at the end of the day, I don't think it may be the best thing for him anyway. From a personal aspect, I'm talking about, because him going to PSG and Real Madrid, yes, he'll be filling his pocket up if they give him what he wants, but it doesn't mean they're going to play like they do under Tuchel. I think when have you ever seen them play back threes or back? I don't think Real Madrid do. I don't think PSG do at the moment. So PSG are buying a player that they know is very good in a back three, but they want to put him in their system, which might be a 4-2-3-1. Are you going to get the same response? I'm not saying that he's not going to be able to do that, but I'm just saying it might not be the best for him or that club in doing that. So there's a lot more things to think of. That's what I'm saying.
No, I agree. And it's you made a good point there. What we never know now, judging from the media, is because legally, obviously, these clubs are only allowed to make offers and have real talks with the player from January 1st when he goes into the last 6 months of his contract. Obviously, in reality, there's probably been conversations already, I presume, but maybe I'm wrong to presume that. So what Jem said there is a good point. Will PSG and Real Madrid even offer him that money? Especially for me, PSG is the question mark here. And not because PSG can't afford it, but because of the centre-backs PSG already have. So, I mean, obviously there have been rumours that they might want to terminate the contract with Ramos before he ever gets playing. But now I think he's in training and they haven't terminated it yet. So they're probably not going to do that. But if Ramos gets fit, stays fit, will they get rid of him again? I feel like they probably won't. And then they still have Marquinhos, who's not going anywhere, as their captain. And yeah, sure, Kimpembe is very prone to a big error, but when he does make an error, he's actually a very good centre-back. So it's like they already have 3 big centre-backs, plus Thilo Kehrer, obviously the German centre-back, who they often use at fullback. But still, would they, even on a free, would they pay huge wages to another player in the same position? I don't know. I mean, it's PSG, so they might do, but you never know. Real Madrid is, in my opinion, a much more realistic option. Number one, they don't have any centre-backs, really. I mean, Alaba is playing centre-back for them, who played centre-back for Bayern the last few years, of course. But even he's not a supernatural centre-back. Then they've got Eder Militao, who sure is good, and Nacho Fernandez, sure is also good. But those are their only 3 centre-backs, as far as I'm aware. Maybe they have a younger one who I'm, again, haven't heard of or I'm not aware of. But essentially, they only have 3 centre-backs. Nacho Fernandez is playing right back half the time because Dani Carvajal is always injured. And Alaba is not actually a centre-back, even though he's morphing into that more and more and more, right? So Real Madrid, I see the logic, especially with Real Madrid, as far as I'm aware, offloading quite a lot of high-earning players.
Is best suited, if you want my honest opinion. Bayern Munich is the one that I think you should really look at, because you could Schuller at the moment, he ain't signed a contract at Bayern Munich still. They ain't massively got a lot of players at that.
But they're not going to pay him more than we are.
I don't know with Bayern Munich.
Nah, I feel like because Bayern don't have this like owner stuff, and they actually live in a country where you can't just tax fraud your way through everything. Like obviously Real Madrid and Barcelona do in Spain. I'm not sure whether they'll be able to do that, but in terms of ability of squad, probably makes the most sense for him. Although I feel like character-wise, Antonio Rudiger doesn't fit Bayern Munich at all. But maybe I'm wrong with that. But before I go to you, Clutch, it's just, we might be in a situation where what if the club is just playing hardball on quite low wages because they feel like he's not going to get what he wants in January, and then he's forced to accept the low wage offer that we've given him? Is that a possibility you could see, Clutch?
I don't think so. I think a club will give him what he wants, whether it be Madrid. I mean, it's definitely not going to be Barcelona. PSG might. You never know. I think a lot of it, I think there's a combination of things that go into this. I think Chelsea are still seeing him at 28, and he's getting up to that number, that age 30, where they stop offering long year contracts for a lot of money for most players. I think that's a big part of it. I think there's a lengthwise that we don't necessarily always like factor in, because maybe he's like, hey, I want a long-term 5-year, 4-year deal, and I want $200K a week. And the $200K is not the problem. It's the length of deal for the amount of money. So I think there's a lot of things. I think if it gets to January, I do think he's gone. I don't think he'll be here if we don't negotiate something by January, just because at that point, somebody's going to give him what he wants. There will be a team that's going to give him whatever he wants. He's been the best center back for the last year. He will get what he wants. But at the same time, Chelsea have to look at it like, I'm scared, like they're looking at his replacement as Sula. Why? I don't want that. I don't want that at all. But then you're going to go, hey, say De Ligt, or, I mean, I think De Ligt plays over there when I think he played over there when Juventus went on a back 3 for us, against us. I think he played in that left position. But even then, it's like a Jules Koundé. Like, that left center back position is made for Rüdiger. And I don't want to see Rüdiger go for Saul, Saul, who's going to be probably paid around the 160,000 a week or whatever they're going to end up paying him, and be absolute trash. I shouldn't say that, but I don't like Saul, so I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. I think if we get to January, we will probably see Rüdiger go, but I'd rather that not happen. I think that they just need to find a deal and find it quickly.
I mean, before I get to the rest of what you said, if we sign Niklas Süle, I'm doing a DT and I'm getting a banner out, because that would be the most outrageous thing I've ever heard of in my life, honestly. That's ridiculous. See, if we make that swap, that's mental. I mean, I do see what you mean, and I don't think it's impossible that he's just... Well, I don't think he will leave in January. I think he'll leave in the summer on a free.
I just think he'll negotiate in January. I think that's...
Yeah, no, I know what you meant. I just feel like it's just because of the numbers that we have heard. I just can't, because I know 200k is a lot, but is it, in the grand scheme of things, is it like when you hear that Saul is on essentially 200k? Sure, we're not probably paying all of that, but still, when I know that Callum is on 120, when I know that we're still paying Drinkwater 100k a week, when Ross Barkley's on around 100k a week. When you think about it like that, Rüdiger is comfortably worth 200k. So that's why, my logic, he must be asking way more than 200. Like 250 for me is the cutoff point. Until 250, I'm like, that's fine. From 250 upwards, I'm like, okay, now we're probably taking a piss a bit, and maybe we shouldn't be paying that much for a centre back. But I think people underestimate. Like someone said, 200k for a centre back, are you mad? But we win our stuff because our centre backs are good. We don't win. We haven't won the Champions League because our forwards are great. We won the Champions League because our defense is great. That's why we want, and because our manager, sure, but because our structure with our defenders work. So if our defenders are the ones that win us titles, shouldn't they be getting arguably be paid more than our forwards? I mean, you know, Lukaku, obviously give him some more time to see if we also criticize that or not, obviously. But in terms of, just look at the Real Madrid game. We should have battered them in both games by probably 2 digits. Like we made them literally look like England made San Marino look yesterday. That's especially in the second leg against Real Madrid. They look no better than San Marino did. But we just couldn't take our chances. So we were, until Mount made it 2-0, we were hanging on. Well, not hanging on, but we were all shitting ourselves in front of the TV, being scared of if we concede an equaliser, and then it's all Atletico Madrid final over again to get a late equaliser, and then they batter us in extra time. So we were all kind of scared of that. So it's like, shouldn't the centre-backs be paid a lot anyway? I will get to more of your chat comments in a second. I just don't want to lose CFC Florida's first super chat, because sometimes StreamYard is weird. So I will read out the second super chat. Again, appreciate you a lot, CFC Florida, saying, no one player is bigger than the club. I trust the Marina to maintain a successful financial model. We don't want to become Barcelona. I mean, yeah, Marina will definitely make sure we never turn into Barcelona. But let me go back to you, Pice. In terms of replacements, is there one that either stands out for you or one that you think is most likely for us to go for?
Not specifically at left centre back. Not the one that we've been linked to either. Like, I've always said I would love to test City for Laporte if we ever had Rüdiger gone, because I think he's very, very good, personally. I've always rated him, but I don't think City would sell to us, and it would be like crazy money as well. But I think if Rüdiger goes, we'll probably end up playing like someone else at left centre back, and then buy like a Kunde who plays like right centre back. I don't know. Like I'm not sure on the specific plans, but I feel like it will get mixed about a little bit. Because like De Ligt, I think he can play on the left, but still I don't know. Like there's not specific like left centre back links apart from that stupid Hungarian guy that we got linked to. Like Sarai or whatever. Like he was a left centre back. And I'm just saying it's stupid because like where's that link even come from? Like like, you know
some
what I mean?
brand of Turkish outlet. They've basically already agreed
Turk,
everything,
right.
and no
CNN
one.
Turk. CNN Turk. It was
CNN Turk. There it is. Yeah.
Like I can't see us. I mean, he is young, like, and you could say that's
he's not even that
building.
young. He's 23, man.
Yeah, but it's still young for a defender. Like, so that's pretty young for a defender, considering what they
But
play.
he's older than like Tomori is. Do you know what I mean? Or same age.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like with Chelsea though, like they mentioned this on the Straight Outta Coleman podcast as well, that Chelsea are very good at planning, and while all the fans debate, they'll have something going on behind the scenes. So I'm pretty sure they have their plans. They'll have their dates to do things by. They'll have those final dates where they say this is the cut-off point. That all goes on behind the scenes. It's only later on that we find out when that is. Like, it's not really the same situation, but just thinking back quickly, I remember when Lampard actually got sacked and the Athletic did that big article, and I just remember debating for weeks about what's going on behind the scenes. What do you think's happened? They just released a fat article about everything. Like, like these guys know what's happening. They just can't say until certain dates. And I know that for a fact. Like, they know what numbers have exactly been offered. They know what he wants because they just get that information, but they're not allowed to say yeah. It's like Fabrizio earlier, right? He was talking about Christensen on his podcast, and he said confident agreement will be reached, but there's clubs chasing him. In a few days, I'll be able to reveal those clubs. Like, he knows, like he knows what's going on. He just can't do things until certain dates. So Chelsea will have plans going on behind the scenes. They'll have dates, but at the end of the day, like, I'm just thinking as well, if there's a logical explanation to why they haven't found an agreement or why they won't rack up so much money, maybe that Rüdiger wants, is like, we all want Tuchel to stay here ages, right? But if Tuchel leaves or doesn't change to a back four, something goes wrong. Personally, for me, from the past, I don't want Rüdiger in the back four. Like, it's just, so then you're in a situation where maybe you've paid him 250 or 200 grand a week, but in 2 years he's useless to you. So why have you just given him to that big contract? You might want someone else in the back four. So, you know, I prefer Christensen in the back four. So it's like, it's one of those, isn't it? There's a lot of debating, and I'm sure that's happening inside the club. Like, what do we do? What's the actual move we want to take? But I'll be interested to find out when this is all said and done, what actually happened, because it's all behind the scenes, trust me.
It is true. It is true. I mean, the whole Rüdiger not being good in a back four, while in what we've seen of him, that might, or not good is probably a bit harsh. Like, it's not like he was dog awful every time we played in a back four. But I do know what you mean. I will say, though, if Tuchel changes to back four, I still think
Laurenz,
Rüdiger will be much better than he was back then.
Yeah, but like Laurenz, you think if you're the club, right? Mm-hmm. Rüdiger in the back three right now, he's amazing. Like, you want him to start every game. He's absolutely unbelievable. He's in the form of his life. He might be okay in the back four, / good, but good isn't, you know, this is Chelsea. Good or okay isn't good enough usually. Like, it's like Werner's good, right, at certain things, but he might not be here much longer because he can't do so many other things. Like, there's players that are good but aren't like top, and I think Abramovich just has constantly demanded top performances in multiple situations, and I've always thought Rüdiger's like a situational player. Like, I always have, like, in terms of formation, in terms of manager, like, I don't know. His character's been questioned at times. Like, I don't know if the whole bullying thing was even true, but I'm not sure. Like, we won't really know, to be honest. But I don't know. I'm not as confident as I am on Rüdiger as I am with Christensen. Like, I've been backing Christensen for years, but I know a couple of years ago I was like, get Rüdiger out of this club. He's awful. You know what I mean? Like, if there's any sort of doubt, I don't think Chelsea will pay what he wants, because it's clearly like a huge amount. Like, they've got to be so certain on every single aspect. Like,
but how is that? But how is Rüdiger less certain than it is whenever we sign a player from a new club? Because how do you know better whether Rüdiger would be so much worse if we change formation than if you sign anybody? Because say we signed a league, never played in the Premier League, played various different formations, but under completely different managers. Surely you're more certain what Rüdiger is going to give you in a back four to Tuchel. Maybe not us, but Tuchel will be more certain what he gets from Rüdiger in a back four than any of us are what we get from De Ligt. The same logic.
I don't know, though,
as much as Lukaku knows the Premier League, we still sign him from somewhere else. Surely there's more risk to that, or more uncertainty to how well that's going to go to that, than just keeping Rüdiger. Because I know what you're saying in terms of Christensen, but Christensen has also had his howlers in the back four. All of them have. I've not even seen Chalobah play in the back four. I'm sure, I know he has done it, but I'm saying I haven't watched him do it. And Thiago Silva is 37. You know, like, I'm like, if the formation change is why we're unsure, if a potential formation change is why we're unsure of giving Rüdiger the money, to me, that's a bit silly, but I don't think that's why I think he's asking way more. I don't think a potential formation change or a potential managerial, because I just feel like centre backs they just get better later. Like, I know people love Thiago Silva, but Thiago Silva at AC Milan was nowhere near the centre back he became at PSG. I know people say, "Oh, he's had this amazing career," and he has. But AC Milan Thiago Silva was nowhere near the same as PSG Thiago Silva.
What? I think he was better. I watched him a lot. I thought he was touted as one of the best centre backs at AC Milan at his time. He was very good.
Yeah, for sure he was that. But AC Milan were nowhere.
No, they weren't. But his performances were at a level where he was being spoken about. When you think back then, there was top quality centre backs at that point. The issue we got now is we don't have that luxury anymore. We struggle to look at that Thiago Silva-esque type of player across Europe, across football. That isn't there anymore, and that's the issue we have with. I agree with Pies, to be honest, when it comes to Rüdiger, because we're stuck in a situation where it makes sense giving him what he wants, but is it? I think with Chelsea, and it's always been our case, especially more so recently. I feel like we're looking for the future. I feel like everything's future ahead.
That's why De Ligt and Koundé are mentioned. De Ligt especially, because I know his agent's Raiola and that might not happen, but if you think about like the young centre backs in Europe, if you think about De Ligt, remember the Champions League campaign with Ajax? Like,
yeah, he's the standout one for sure.
He's already been formidable in Europe. Like, I just feel like he's got such maturity for his age. Like, he's very experienced for his age, and I feel like I'd love to lick the Chelsea. I just think his IQ and his all-round potential to be a longevity centre back is huge. Like, 100%.
Funny because I would want Koundé because of his.
I want both. I think Koundé's good, but I think more. De Ligt is more of a, like, he's imposing as well, right? Like, Koundé's smaller, but I just feel like De Ligt's that. I feel like he's got that DNA to be a Chelsea centre back.
Yeah,
but
what I was just going to say, because I know Laurenz is going to say it next to you, but the issue we have is that as Chelsea fans, and he was right, we set high barometers of the players that we want coming into our football club. When we look at the legendary players that we've had in John Terry, Lampard, Ashley Cole, these were guys at the top of their peaks, world-class footballers. The issue you have now is you can't just go and find that anymore because there isn't. So you're stuck with players that are very good and top. But are they elite level, Thiago Silva levels? They're at a younger, there isn't. And that's the issue you've got at the moment in keeping a Rüdiger or not. Or, getting rid of him and bringing in De Ligt. Is he going to perform in this system or not? Like, even though he's a top player, he's not a player like Thiago Silva, who I think can adapt to anything. He can play in a 3, he can play in a 4. We know that he can do these things. We don't know that with certain other individuals. And that's the issue with Rüdiger. Can he play as good as he does in a 3, in a 4? I'm unsure.
Obviously, we don't know, but I presume Tuchel knows because from training, I'm sure we've trained back fours, so he would have an idea. Sure, it's not quite the same as training, but again, I mean, I'm not quite sure I agree with Jem on saying that Thiago Silva was better at AC Milan than he was at I'm not saying he was bad, not by any means. I hope no one mistook what I was trying to say. Obviously, he was a very good centre back, but at PSG, in my opinion, he developed as one of the top 2 or 3 in the world for years, and arguably is still close to that now, even though he's 37. But part of why, what you just said there, Jem, why there's no debate, can he play this, can he play that? It's number one, because he's experienced. Number two, because we've seen him perform in various different formations, and by now in various different leagues. But I will just say, we're talking about De Ligt so casually. De Ligt is on 290,000 euros a week at Juve, reportedly at least, plus high goal bonus and high points bonuses, as far as I'm aware, or as far as has been reported. So I know he's a lot younger, but I think what people are talking about Rüdiger as if he's 32. The guy's 28 or 29. Like, Thiago Silva is 37. Like, no one can sit here and say, when talking about Chelsea, but what if he gets to it? I'm like, bro, Thiago Silva is 37. I'm not saying Rüdiger is like Thiago Silva or will be like Thiago Silva, but if one guy can go to 37, anyone.
He's a dying breed, Laurenz. He's a dying breed. I keep saying it to you.
I know, but he can't go to. Not everyone can go to 37, but most people can go to 34.
That's not always the case, though, is it? Because Cristiano Ronaldo's going to 37, 38 because he looks after himself. It's at the peak of his powers, but it doesn't mean that. I don't know. Romelu Lukaku is going to do the same. Do you know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, it's only certain individuals. That
what position you're talking about?
Yeah,
goalkeepers can go longer and centre back can go longer. While there's other positions where the average footballer doesn't go as long. Would you not say?
I hear that.
It's just the whole debacle because I mean, Pi said there, De Ligt or who would be our left centre back? If I asked you before we changed to a back three and put Rüdiger at left centre back, would you have seen Rüdiger as a left centre back? Because his positions until then in his career was playing right centre back in a back four, or at Roma even at times playing right back. So left centre back was probably the last position anybody saw.
Well, no, but he always said that he was playing a free.
I mean,
Chesney,
Christensen's played quite a bit left centre back, and also we have Levi Colwill, who's absolutely storming it in the Championship at the moment. So let's not forget about him as well, because I'll tell you what, this guy, like, he's giving me Rhys James vibe in the Championship. Try every single game. This guy, I've watched him a bit. He's so talented, and he is literally a left centre back. Like, that's where he plays. So I think he's going to be one to watch in pre-season. But yeah, just overall, like, there's definitely options we can play there. It's just if Tuchel stays here a long time, which we hope he does, then obviously not renewing Rüdiger will look stupid. But yeah, there's a lot of ifs and buts in this, isn't there? Like, you can debate for hours about this. We don't know what's really happening, to be honest.
No, exactly.
Like, there's
my big problem.
I'm just saying, like, there's not been that many exclusives, like, on what's happening. It's just, they're negotiating. Well, I'm just waiting for that one big article, like, here's what's happening. Here's what's happened in the last 3 or 4 weeks. This is what it's looking like. Like, we've not had that for a while.
No.
Like, we had that Athletic article giving us the latest updates, and they were talking about, how we've offered 140,000, and that's how far we're apparently willing to go. And we also had that update on Christensen as well. Matt Law revealing that apparently he wants a 3-year and not a 5-year, but there's not been that many exclusives. But hopefully we get some more soon, because it's quite difficult to understand the situation, I think.
No, I agree. And like I was just going to say, my big problem with it is that none of the options we're looking at or that have been linked or even that are out there, except Marquinhos, but he's not a left side centre back either. I'm like, none of them are anywhere near as good as Rüdiger. I don't care whether it's in a back four or a back two, like centre back two, so a back four. I don't think that any of them is anywhere near as good as him. So that's what frustrates me, because I'm like, and then you were linked to that guy called Shalai, and I'm like, I think it was under your tweet, and then I said, well, don't want him, and then you said, well, Atletico linked to him, so it can't be that bad. I'm like, well, yeah, but I don't want Savage or Hermoso either. Then I had Atletico fans on my back saying Savage is better than any of our centre backs, while Savage proceeded to bottle their win 3 days later, which was quite hilarious to me. But the whole like Salah, I'm like, come on. And then people said, but you didn't think Mendy was any good before we signed him? I'm like, number one, I did, because I actually looked at the stats before we signed him, and his last 2 seasons in Liga were incredible. Number two, don't compare Liga to the Turkish league, right? That's a big thing. Number two, number three.
Don't diss my Turks, mate.
Sorry. But I didn't diss the Turks, just their league, right? But and then they said, but what about Mendy? Where was Kante before Leicester signed him? I'm like, yeah, when Leicester signed him. We're not Leicester. We are reigning champions of Europe, not Leicester. Just avoiding relegation is a very different scenario to be in here. I know it worked out for them, but that was a gamble. Like, that, they couldn't have known that. The same with Riyad Mahrez, right? And but what about Aspi? Again, don't compare Liga to the Turkish league. It's like, you stop waffling to me, man. Like, what is this? And absolute horse crap. It pisses me off. But let's move on. Because we're, like Pi said, we're not going to come to a full conclusion anyway. And on this note, I'm going to, number one, go to CFC Florida's, first super chat from earlier, and then also go to Clutch. Firstly, saying, afternoon, gentlemen. Jem's busy on the web today, yes, because Jem has been streaming early on his channel already. In my opinion, absolutely no reason for Pulisic to be on the pitch tonight against Jamaica. I think we can all agree, but at the same time, if he doesn't get injured, any bit of game time helps him become more match sharp and be ready to start for us. So if he is involved and isn't injured, great. If he is involved and is injured, awful. If he isn't involved at all, I'm like, fair enough, don't really mind. But then if he's not involved and doesn't even come on, they should have just sent him back to London way earlier, because I'm like, avoid the poor guy the jet lag if he now travels tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? So it is what it is. But first of all, again, CFC Florida, appreciate the super chat. But let me go to you, Clutch. Obviously, the report over the last couple of days, there have been some silly reports. Oh, we're trying to sell Pulisic, or Thomas Tuchel has sanctioned the sale of Christian Pulisic to God knows where. I mean, I think a week ago there was links that Shevchenko was trying to sign Pulisic to Genoa, where he's now the new manager. I'm like, Genoa, and he's trying to sign Pulisic. All right, and now apparently we're trying to offload him to Barcelona. It's like, obviously these reports are all big waffle. But first of all, what do you make of them reports? But also, now that obviously you've watched the USA-Mexico game, and he scored a couple of minutes after coming on. Very funny shirt under his name, even though he kind of bought the celebration of showing it properly, because clearly the Nike shirt he was wearing was a bit too tight. But first of all, what do you make about the rumours, Gudge? And second of all, how did he actually play against Mexico aside from the goal he scored?
First thing I want to say is his celebrations are getting colder, right? I mean, his last 3 celebrations on his goal have just been like a little bit of arrogance in him, and you don't really see that from that guy. So, I mean, I'm loving that part. But as far as like the rumors go, the thing is, there are teams out there that are definitely going to want him. He's got huge marketability over here. Like, he's going to sell shirts and he's going to make money for clubs. So it's no surprise that we're hearing teams want him. But as far as like Tuchel wanting to sell him, like, wasn't it Fabrizio Romano who just said like 2 weeks ago that Tuchel didn't want to sell him? Like, he had plans for him. So I think it's funny because clearly it's not going to happen. But like, where's Barcelona even going to get the money to do it? They couldn't even sign Messi on a low wage. Like, they're not going to be able to sign.
Well,
Pulisic, who's
low wage. You texted me that, but I didn't have time to properly reply. Messi could have not gone lower than 50% of his wage, but 50% of his wage at the time is still more than anybody earns at Chelsea. So, like,
that's a fair. But still, at the same point, like, they have zero money. They can't even buy players. The report is they can't even buy players in January.
Apparently, the rumor came out today that they would be willing to listen for offers for Frankie de Jong, who is by far their best player. Sure, you could say Ansu Fati super talented, and a few of the midfielders that are coming through are super talented for sure. But in terms of current level of player, I think Frankie de Jong is by far their best footballer. Hey, if they want to get rid of Frankie de Jong, and as if we didn't have enough midfielders, hey, I'll take him. I can't lie. But go on, Clutch. Sorry.
I'd agree to Frankie de Jong. I think he's a really good player. But as far as like Pulisic, I mean, the thing is, I think if he gets injured again, I do think Chelsea are probably going to start looking towards getting rid of him. But I don't think he's a January signing. I think he is more of a summer signing. If we get rid of him, he'll be definitely next summer. But I think more likely to go is Ziyech in January. I mean, he's the one that seems the most unhappy out of everyone. But I mean, for me, I don't want to see Pulisic go until we see at least him with Lukaku. I think those two are the key to unlocking our offense currently. But I think it's just stupid. I think there's a lot of fans that don't like him for XYZ, whatever reason is. But personally, I don't want to see him go. And as far as him playing, I think that one of his biggest strengths is, unlike anybody else on our current Chelsea team, he knows where to be at the right time. He always is attacking one of the posts. He's always coming into the box. He's one of those people who, like, I think somebody did a video where he has one goal from outside the box, and then like every other goal he scored for Chelsea has been within the 6-yard box. I mean, we just don't have players that do that. We don't have players who want to attack the goal, and he's one of the only players. I think he's very key to our offense. The problem is, can he stay healthy for long enough to do that? That's my biggest question with Christian Pulisic. But as far as him playing tonight, I don't want him. I'm getting currently a lot of stick because all the American fan base is like, he's our best player. He's the most important to our team. It's like, if you can't go out and beat Jamaica without Christian Pulisic, there's a problem. Like, I don't know what you're going to do in the World Cup if you can't beat Jamaica without Christian Pulisic.
That's a good point. Point.
That's where I'm at right now. I'd rather see him come back. It's going to be a while before Thomas Tuchel starts him. I'm not in any denial on that point. But at the same time, we need to see him get to levels with Chelsea. I think Chelsea needs to be his focus right now because Chelsea's going to be the place where he goes the highest. It's going to take him to the highest in his career. I don't think any other club is going to be able to offer him that. Currently, Chelsea's the best team in Europe. They have the most ability within a squad, I would say, and the most opportunity for him. This is his opportunity from here till January, February. He needs to prove that he can stay on the pitch for 70 plus minutes without getting injured. He needs to prove that him and Lukaku can link up together. He needs to prove to Thomas Tuchel that he's a reliable player. And I don't question his mindset, but it's just like when you see him play more game time for the United States than you have seen play for Chelsea this year, I think that's a huge problem. Like, you can't do that. Your club is more important. I don't care. I know Americans don't think that. They think, like, hey, that players treat their international as the most important thing they do. No, it's an honor. It's not a obligation. There is a obligation they have to their club to stay healthy, to stay fit, and play at the best they can play.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, like I said, I think the reports of him going anywhere in January are big waffle. I think Thomas Tuchel really wants and needs Pulisic to be fully back, and depending on how much longer Timo Werner is out for, I don't even think it's necessarily that far in the future until he starts a game. Obviously, if Timo was fit, it's different, but because Timo is injured and we only have Callum, and not only Callum, but Callum that plays that left side at the moment, I wouldn't be like too shocked if Christian gets minutes. Depending, like, I mean, Jester said it there, he will get minutes tonight. As much as we hope he doesn't, or you hope he doesn't, he will. Let's see if he starts or not. But if he does and doesn't get hurt, that's only getting him closer to getting fit. So, like I said that earlier. But for me, it's just the fact that there's even reports about us selling him is so silly to me. I'm like, we haven't been offensively good enough this season for us to be debating of selling the player that we've not seen all season. Like, if anything, we should be talking about selling any of the players that we have seen and have not been good. Like, that's quite it. But we'll get to Ziyech in a minute. But on that note, I'll ask you, Pice, do you want to just confirm for us that the reports of Pulisic going anywhere, at least the ones we've seen so far, are all a big bunch of waffle?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen anything from any reliable source, so
there you go.
I mean, it's just logic as well, like, really. Like, he's not going to leave in January. I think I agree. Someone said, I think Ziyech will leave in January. He's the most likely one, but at the same time, I know we're going to talk a little bit about Ziyech, but, like, I don't know, like, I still think as much as he don't really play, we still kind of need depth. Like, if Ziyech goes, we have to sign an attacker. Like, simple as that for me, because I just don't. I think injuries and just the amount of games we'll have to play, I feel like we'll have to replace him. So, yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think every attacker will stay in January, but I do feel like next summer, I feel like 2 or 3 could be sold quite easily.
2 or 3, but that means we need to buy 2 or 3.
Yeah, I feel like next summer will be really big for us.
Fair enough. One last thing I just remembered I wanted to say. On Pulisic and his injury, what's the noun for injury prone? Like, it's not proneness, is it? Does anyone know the noun for this? What I'm looking for? Like, proud.
I think it's just prone. I think it's just prone.
Fair enough. So what I was trying to say is, we've now seen Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who, when he was younger, was always super injury prone with his back issues. Obviously, that was a bit of a problem that was just consistent, while Pulisic hasn't had the same problem over and over and over again. Yeah, you could say muscle injuries, but that's a bigger term than it is just specific back problems, right? But Ruben has now been fit for over a year. So if Ruben, who was probably the most injury-prone player I've seen until we signed Pulisic, or until Dembele went to Barcelona, if he can become fit, who's to say that Christian Pulisic can't do the same thing? So from that point of view, I'm like, it's don't throw your toys out the pram too soon, especially when he's the guy that hasn't been playing. Yeah, it's a problem that he hasn't been playing, but he can't help that. He's not like bloody trying to be injured, is he? So, that's that point of view. I will go to you now, Jem, but I will link the whole Pulisic discussion into potentially Hakim Ziyech going to Borussia Dortmund in January. Like, obviously, Pice just touched on that. Could anyone leave in January, or will no one leave in January? So, Jem, first of all, what do you make of the whole Pulisic situation? Do you think we should keep him, blah, blah, blah? But also, I think we should be getting rid of anyone, even Ziyech, to say a Dortmund in January? Or do you think, like Pice, we should just keep everyone until the end of the season at least?
No one leaves to the end of the season. We can't afford to let players go. You've seen, especially in the forward line, how quickly we can lose players. We've lost Lukaku. We've lost Werner. We've even lost Pulisic for a number of weeks,
Even
days,
Mount
50
for a
plus
week.
days. Mount, exactly. We can't afford to allow players to leave our club just because we're in. You bear in mind, we're playing more than 50 games a season. We're in all 4 competitions still. These, they're all needed. At the end of the day, it makes no sense getting rid of Ziyech. As much as I don't think he's really pulling his weight at the moment, it makes no sense letting him go and keeping him here till the end of the season and then let him go. At least it gives us the opportunity to then look at because I do think we need a winger. I do think not Pulisic, Ziyech will go. I think Pulisic will be at Chelsea. I don't see no reason why he goes unless he keeps getting injured. He keeps getting injured, but unless Chelsea think we need to have someone in that area that we can improve. That can improve the squad, and not just that. Pulisic, when he's fit, is probably our best. I'd say our best player behind Lukaku. That's what I think. When he's fit and he's firing and he's he's on his game. For me, he's
I presume
very,
you mean
very
just
good.
forward of the forward.
Yeah. Of the forwards that we have, but the issue you got with him is the limited time you actually get to see. And Clutch touched on it as well, like him playing more for his country than for his club. For me, I didn't even realize that. That's a big issue for me. The fact that he's never really available for us as well. So look, keep him till the end, review it, see who wants to go. I think, to be honest, Ziyech, it's not looking good for him. I think he's probably going to go in the summer, and I think it's more to do with him that he's just not. I don't think this league suits him. I don't think that the whole thing of not being able to have time on the ball helps him in this league. You don't have that, and with him, he likes to put his left foot on the ball, look up, wait for someone to make a run to do one of them beautiful balls over the top, and he don't get to do that, especially in the system we play, because playing the 3 that we do, the 2 behind us, the striker, don't ever get that time because they're either getting shut down by the midfielder or the defender very quickly. So I think Ziyech is suffering purely from a system thing, but also just the Premier League in general. And that's why when he has had okay performances, it's always in the Champions League. It's never really in the Premier League for me. So yeah.
Exactly. And no global CFC Pulisic does not want to go to Genoa, and will not be going to Genoa anyway. On the whole Ziyech thing, for me, it's like the only way in which I could accept letting him go is if we recall, say, Broja and make Havertz less of a striker option, but more of one of these wide 10 options. Then we can maybe talk about letting Ziyech go. But do I prefer Broja to come here and not really play a lot instead of being at Southampton where he's playing a lot of minutes and, doing well? Levi Colwill scored, but for who?
England, isn't it? No?
But England who? Under 21s or where is it?
Under 21s, yeah.
21s,
I
yeah.
retweeted a clip. Some of his highlights. It was very good.
Yeah.
nice footage.
On that note, actually, just quickly, so is this no? So I can actually talk about this. The fact that who was it? Who was Scott Sinclair? Was it? That's like how disrespectful it is not to go to the under 21s. I'm like, bro, under 21s is essentially youth football. You're asking a player that's played first team football since the age of 17 to play under 21s. He's better in a 5 people training at Chelsea than to go to the England under 21s. Under 21s, if you're above 18, is the most pointless thing in the world. If you haven't made it by 21, you're never gonna. Like, do you know what I mean? When we have like Lewis Baker, when he was playing for our under 21s at 23, I'm like, and there was still at 20, and there were still people talking about like, oh, he's great, and I'm like, he can make. I'm like, no, I love him, sure, good player, but if you're 20 and playing for under 21s team, you're not making it. So people need to get this weird fixations. That's why I didn't really react much to it, because if someone scores in under 21s, it's like me scoring in a Sunday league game. It doesn't matter. It's under 21. It's kids football. I don't understand why anybody gives that any valuation, to be honest. But sorry, off topic. Does anybody, and I'll go to you next, Pice. Is that a scenario you could possibly imagine where we recall Broja and then let Ziyech go?
No, not at all, to be honest. I don't think, to be honest with you, I think Broja would want to stay at Southampton just because I feel like he's going to get the minutes there. Like, I just think it's logical. I 100% think he'll be in the squad next season, but that's different. That's a different topic. Like, we don't need to sign a bloody backup striker when we've got Broja. Like, he's a beast. He's going to be very good, I think. But yeah, January again. Like, if Ziyech goes, we have to sign a wide player. Like, even if we bought Broja back, Havertz, Mount on the right. Like, Werner can play there, Hudson-Odoi can play there, but can play there is not good enough. We're trying to win the league. You know what I mean? Like, we'd have to replace him. And yeah, January will be interesting, maybe, but I don't think Ziyech is going to leave. I feel like he might ask to leave, but I feel like we'll probably just say, like, no, unless we can get someone else in, because we don't suck up to other players' demands, as you see with Rüdiger. So, yeah, he's going to have to stick around until the summer, I personally believe. But if he does go on loan to Dortmund, then I feel like the club have planned on bringing someone in personally.
Can I just say quickly, Ziyech is way too old to be going on loan anyway. If Ziyech is going,
yeah, it's stupid. This
sold.
whole thing, like, the whole thing is stupid as well. I hate this when we buy a player and he's not great, and we just don't accept our losses. Like, we paid, what was it, like 28 million for Ziyech? If Dortmund offer us 20 mil, Marina will say no. She'll be like 28 or 30 mil. Like, just bloody sell him if they offer money. Like, that's the one thing I don't like. And I get it's all business, and, you know, Marina usually wins, so why would she accept, you know, losses? Because then it turns out that maybe other teams can get a steal. And I was like, I get that whole perspective, but still, like, 28-year-old got on loan, that's embarrassing. Like, seriously, like, come on.
No, exactly. I can only agree. Clutch, any thoughts you want to add on Ziyech potentially leaving in January?
I mean, I would doubt it. I mean, maybe if he pushes hard enough, but at that point, like, I think the only realistic option for us to even go get at that point would be Eden Hazard. But, I mean, my feelings on that are 50-50 at best, so I don't know. I mean, I doubt it. I think we'll have all of our attackers for this season because we are currently in first place. We are still in prime position for winning the league, and like Jem said, we do need all of them till the end of the season. And Ziyech is also one of those guys who I don't see as a January signing. I think he's a summer signing. He's a great player in the wrong system. So I think if he does leave, it'll be in the summer.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll go back to you actually, Pies, because maybe you have the best idea about the situation. I'm not going to pronounce it the whole French way again. Tchouameni. I feel like the reports have kind of just increased about our interest in him, and I feel like the only thing I read is that we're favourites. And so, what is the actual situation? Are we actually favourites? Are we so heavily linked to Tchouameni that we can sit here and probably expect us to sign him in the summer?
I've always said I think we'll sign him or Rice next summer. I don't think it'll be Rice, personally. I think it'll be Tchouameni. And the reason why I say this is because I remember Simon Johnson telling me that we obviously had contact last summer with his agents, but I remember him saying to me that we thought, or there was an idea in the club that they thought maybe he could do with 12 more months in Monaco. So I feel like next summer, or this summer coming up, it would have been next summer back then, I feel like we might think he's more ready now. Like, that was the whole kind of situation last summer. Whenever we got linked to him, it was maybe he could do with 12 more months. I remember Simon telling me that. Pretty sure he wrote that in an article as well. So I feel like his price is not too high either. I think, 40-50 million for someone who is an eventual Kante replacement and has also got such impressive stats. Both the thing is with Tchouameni as well, like Fabregas said it as well, like I need to watch more of Monaco, but the things I'm hearing is this guy can play 6, 8, and he can also play 10 as well. Like, it's really weird. He's so versatile. Like, he's got a mad array of talents, basically. Like, he can do pretty much everything. And when I was looking in depth to his stats, the only thing that he doesn't really shine that much in is ball carrying, but that doesn't really matter anyway because we have so many ball carriers in our team. Like, we have Loftus-Cheek, we have Kovacic. Even Kante carries the ball really well. So I think we will sign, but I just think 5 midfielders we could have next year, that could be a bit of a problem. But at the same time, Loftus-Cheek gets injured, Kante gets injured. Like, let's not pretend these guys are not going to ever get injured again. So I can see a reason to sign him, and I would love him here personally. I just don't think Rice will happen. Too much money. I feel like West Ham will price him out of a move until 2025 when his contract ends, and that's when I think he'll leave. And by that time, remember, if you're thinking about this, we can end up having both of these guys eventually, because by 2025, I think Jorginho leaves. I think Kante leaves. Who knows? Kovacic might leave. You just don't know. That's quite a long way away. So we could end up having Tchouameni and Rice in our midfield in a few years' time.
We could do. I think it all depends on what happens with West Ham, I guess, because if they somehow manage to make themselves into a top 4 club, I'm not saying they will, I'm saying if they do, then as much as he wants to leave, he still is big involved into bloody West Ham. Do you know what I mean? Like, where he will be taking over as their full-time captain when Mark Lober leaves at the end of the season, and he's already essentially their on-pitch captain. Like, if they make it to a very high level, I don't think it's as guaranteed that he leaves than we were all thinking 2 years ago. But also, I just think West Ham will price pretty much anybody out of him, at least this coming summer. And from then on, obviously, it depends on, his contract running down and everything. So it's like, it's a tough one. But exactly what you said there. I read recently that this season, Tchouameni has been playing deeper than he actually was last season, which to me is good. And I can't remember where I read this, but someone said he's playing more like he would suit the big club now, rather than playing, for Monaco and being this kind of like talented player, just like doing a bit too much, like something he wouldn't be doing for a big club, which I like to hear. So, I wouldn't be against it at all. Jem, any thoughts on Tchouameni? Would he be a player you're interested in?
I've always said, and I said it earlier on my stream, I said that Chelsea are definitely looking for the future. Tchouameni is a player that I haven't watched loads of, but from what I've seen of, I think he's very good. And if I had the option between Rice and Tchouameni, it would be Tchouameni, because I just don't think the price tag warrants Rice, because I do think they want anything between £80+ million for him in the first place. My issue with Declan Rice coming to Chelsea is that he won't. If Kante, Jorginho, and Kovacic stay, where does he start? And then you've spent that kind of money to really, in theory, either change the formation for him to be the lone DM, or replace one of them players to play in the current system. And my issue is, look, if Kante, Jorginho, or Kovacic, if one of them go, say they did, just say at the end of the season, I don't know, we don't extend Kante's contract and he leaves, he goes on somewhere else, which I wouldn't mind, by the way. I'm going to be honest with you, because I do think that it's getting to a point with Kante where we're not seeing him as much, but he's still holding his value because he's N'Golo Kante. And if Chelsea are really thinking about making a little bit of money on him still, then maybe moving him on and looking ahead before him makes sense. And then maybe a Declan Rice or Tchouameni. I'd still want Tchouameni, don't get me wrong, from what I've seen and stuff. But I just feel like we have other priorities to deal with. And I know we spoke about the defence, but the main priority for me is that Rüdiger's leaving and we need to have a high-profile defender in there, someone with a name. And not only do we need one with a name, we need another for me as well. We don't need just one. We need two for me, because Thiago Silva's not going to be hanging around for long, is he? He might stay for another season. He keeps extending his contract on a yearly basis. It might get to the point where he might want to go and play back in Brazil. Who knows? Do you know what I mean? So the issue we have is we need to sort out Christensen. We may lose Rüdiger. You bring someone in, you prioritise that area. You maybe look for another individual to come in as well. And then you bring Tchouameni in and allow him, if Kante, Jorginho and Kovacic stay, to mix and play with that experience, because he will play games. He just won't play as much. But then the argument would be, what happens with Billy Gilmour? Because we let him go. And obviously, if Norwich get relegated, are we just faffing off the players that we've had at our club? No.
Gallagher as well, bro. Like, we haven't mentioned Gallagher
exactly.
as well.
But the thing with Gallagher, again, is we have to be careful, because we can be social media can be a very reactionary place. I say it all the time. He's playing very well at the moment. Doesn't mean he gets in this Chelsea squad. For me, it doesn't mean that he walks in. We are Chelsea at the end of the day. And I like the way he's playing. He's very good and he's doing what he's doing. But let the guy do what he's doing for at least another 2 seasons for me, or a season. Like, first season's cool. Can he do it again? Allow him to get that experience of regression somewhere else, rather than bring him back and he ends up being a Ross Barkley where he doesn't get in the team as much because you've got Mount in front of him and Havertz. And do you know what I mean? That's my worry. Just, you want to build for the future, Allow the ones that are doing well to continue doing well. And then maybe with the same with Billy Gilmore. And then maybe if we're going to keep Kante, Kovacic and Jorginho, bring in Tchouameni and just allow them to mix with them players and take it season by season, because they're going to go eventually, a lot of these guys.
No, they will. It's a very good point. And what you said there about prioritizing other positions, I also think before we need to think about any midfielder, it's much more important to think about our second right wing back, because we have Aspie there. None of us really want playing right wing back. And the other player we usually play there is Callum Hudson-Odoi, who he doesn't really want to play there. Tuchel says he doesn't enjoy having to play Hudson-Odoi at right wing back. So, we need to think of that. I would personally prefer a much better backup left wing back to Marcos Alonso. I know, he had a good start to the season, but on average, Marcos Alonso is just awful. So, I'd rather have a better left wing back backup, right? So, and then we talk about the centre backs, and then I still feel like we need a winger also more than we need a midfielder. But this is all if we don't change formation. If Tuchel sat here in his, office with Marina the other week and saying, I plan to change to a back four next season, then we're in a completely different scenario where I'm like, yes, then midfielder becomes one of the priorities, because then we need to, depending on what kind of back four with what midfield do we want to play, then it becomes a whole different scenario. And the Gallagher thing is also, Gallagher is not a real 6. Gallagher is certainly not a real wide 10. Sure, neither is or was Mount before we kind of turned him into that at the moment. But I feel like if we change to
we said that about Ruben as well.
Yeah, but he's not a wide.
He's giving us a problem, hasn't he? That's my point, because he's playing so
well.
As
a 6, yeah, it's true. As a 6, it's true. But still, with how Gallagher has been doing right now, would it be ideal for Gallagher to get the amount of? I mean, Ruben has played a lot very recently, to be fair. Whether he will keep doing that all season, if say Kante stays fit, I don't know. I hope so, because I love Ruben, and I think he's performed brilliantly. But like you touched on with Gallagher a minute ago, if we're not going to play a formation where he plays regularly, wouldn't it be better, as much as he's amazing, wouldn't it be better to give him another loan just so he can keep developing more? But again, that all depends on information. That's why all these transfer talks, as much as I'm doing a stream about it myself, are difficult, because so much of that depends on whether Tuchel wants to keep this formation or change the formation. So much of it is dependent on that. Clutcher, I'll let you talk about Tchouameni in a second as well, if you need to. Or if you have anything else to add. But we will also get to Prashant's super chat in a second. I will get it up on screen, but I will talk about it as the last thing before we finish it off. So, Clutch, Tchouameni, someone you'd like, or would you prefer Rice, or would you like just us to sign no midfielder, essentially?
I think you were spot on when you said it depends on the formation we're going to do. If we're going to go back to a back four, I prefer Rice, because Rice is the better holding midfielder, and he's been doing it in the Prem for the last 3 years. But if we're going to keep this formation that Tuchel has specialized in, made an absolute monster, then Tchouameni makes more sense. He's able to actually switch into that 6 along with the Jorginho, along with the Kovacic. I don't watch a lot of Tchouameni, so I can't exactly say a lot about him. I know what I hear about him, and it's very good. But I think a lot of it comes down to, if we go to that back four, when we were talking about Rüdiger earlier, maybe I think the problem with Frank was when we did that back four, we didn't have somebody who was going to protect those back two, and we just get caught on the counter. And it was always Jorginho, and Jorginho is never going to be the guy who's going to one-on-one be a great defender. He's just not that guy, and that's where we kept trying to play him. And then we didn't have success with Jorginho back there. Then that's why all of a sudden we don't see Jorginho playing, and now he's doing a lot better. The formation makes the difference. It is all what Thomas Tuchel wants. Do I think if Rüdiger leaves that we start looking more towards the back four? I think probably. I think we will probably end up looking more towards that. But at the same time, there's just so many unknowns. Rice's price tag is something I don't like, so I would prefer Tchouameni for that reason.
Fair enough. I'm just reading along with the chat here. Someone said Alonso hasn't put a foot wrong this season. I'm like, this season didn't finish after the first 3 games, mate. So I'm not quite sure you've come to that conclusion, but sure. And Jester and a few other people were talking about Gallagher basically playing instead of Kovacic. And yeah, I'm not saying he can't do that. My question is, will he do that?
Oh my days! Please end the stream now. Oh my god!
I'm not sure if Jester's saying it instead of in the sense of Kovacic then goes to the bench, or is it like, if Kovacic leaves, then Gallagher's the replacement? I don't know what exactly he means. But,
Jester, bro, you need to message me on Twitter, yeah, I'm going to send you the graph of Kovacic's season so far. I just want to show you something. So DM me and I'll respond, okay? So DM me just as later if you seriously think that. That's insane.
I don't think he means as like the replacement now. I think it means in the future. But I would agree with Laurenz. I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he's going to want to be the backup later. Like, these players are all young. They're all talented. Billy Gilmore, Ruben, they're all super talented and can probably go play. Yeah, it's why Gahey left. It's why Tino Livramento left. It's why Lamptey left. And it's going to happen with some of these players. I mean, that's just part of being Chelsea and having the academy that we're having. That's just, they're strong players, strong young players, but are they going to want to sit on the bench for Chelsea when they know they can go play for a Southampton and still grow? I don't think so. I mean, that's just the nature. Kovacic is our midfielder for the future for at least next 5 years, in my opinion. So I don't think that's what he meant by that. But if Conor Gallagher were to come back, we would have to switch to a back four because he's not going to get into the team with two of the sixes. He's just not.
I guess, but then Jem made a fair point. We didn't think Ruben would, and Ruben has. So, who the hell?
I think Ruben has that profile though, as like a big, strong ball carrier. I don't think Gallagher has that profile to be that six. I think it was just Tuchel seen. He's got the Ruben's got the profile. Let's try him here, and under Tuchel being the manager that he has been.
Then again, Clutch. Then again, though, I mean, Gallagher reminds me of Kovacic a little bit because he's quite tenacious. He's very sort of everywhere. He wins tackles. He kind of. I don't know if he can play in our 2-6. I'm not sure as I've not seen him play for us, but I don't think, as you said, like Ruben's got the profile. I don't think Gallagher doesn't have the profile because I do think he's high work rate. He's tenacious. He can go forward, but he can also
as well. By the way, Gallagher. It's not like he's short.
Yeah, like he's very.
Is he
tenacious?
Wow.
Like yeah. I feel like he can play definitely defensive, but he's good going forward as well. Like I think he's a bit of everything. So I wouldn't rule him out into the squad in sort of, I don't know, maybe next season or beyond. But I just think the more we hear about Tchouameni or Rice starts coming up again, clearly that Gilmore and Gallagher will be on loans again, or maybe even Chelsea will bloody cash in on Gallagher and put a buyback like we did with Tammy and we sold Gurhey,
Livramento.
Livramento. Maybe Crystal Palace love him so much they bid 35 million. Chelsea go, right, that's towards Rice or that's towards Tchouameni, so, and they put a buyback on, because if you put a buyback on, the fans can't cry about it because we still kind of own him in a sense.
Well, we should have done with Tomori. Fuck that one up, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to negotiate in certain clubs in certain places, but it's not. I mentioned this the other day, and everyone was like, "Well, no, Chelsea won't sell Gallagher." I'm like, if Palace love him that much and they have a bit of money to spend next summer, they might just bid all in for him. You know what I mean? Like, I've spoken to Palace fans. One who does a podcast, HLTCO, his Twitter account is big Palace account. He says he generally thinks Palace will probably spend most of their summer trying to sign him next. If we get a big one of cash for, someone who we clearly rate, but is on loan, and we want other midfielders, you don't know what's going to happen. So, who knows? The future's so unpredictable.
Did we just need to get 20 mil for Mark Gay as well when we sold him? Was it 17 mil?
18 million pound for someone who played for us.
Exactly. He's not even played for us. We've got 80 million. Like, I agree. If we can catch on certain players, do it. But
you're telling me like Tchouameni is 45 to 50 mil, right? That's what I've kind of heard the sort of general price bracket to be. If Palace bid 40 million for Gallagher, are you selling him and putting that towards Tchouameni? Like, think about it. I am. I'm personally I am.
I tell you what, we'll take Connor back and you can have Ross Barkley for 25.
Yeah, that'll do. Or Alonso.
Yeah, that is one way.
I'm all for that.
Go on, say again.
I said I'm all for that one.
There you go. But let's finish it off with this super chat here by Prashan. Based on the season so far, do you see us winning the Premier League? And Clutch, let me go with you first. What do you think?
I think if Burnley was a one-off, we win the league. But if Burnley's not a one-off, or we're not finishing, killing teams that we should when we're up 1-0, and we go and draw in the 70th minute, and that's what we end up doing, I don't think we win the league. I mean, that was a huge opportunity that we messed up. Hopefully, it was just a blip in the radar, and we go on, move on from it. But I think Tuchel knows that we missed an opportunity. I think he will fix that. Barring injuries, I think we win the league.
Fair. Jim, what about you?
I've always stuck to the thing of let's see through December, because playing 7 Premier League games in December is a lot. People forget how many games we play in 1 month. And, you know, being that we play Leicester on the 20th of November and the 29th of December, we have Brighton, there's a good 11, 12 plus games, a lot of points to be won. And if you look at where we are at the moment in the league and the people below us, that can all change after 1 or 2 games. You know, we could lose 2 and we'll be off. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's about now being consistent, staying on top, doing your job, because Liverpool, the likes of Liverpool and the people around us are dropping points. We did lose an opportunity against Burnley because Liverpool lost, or Liverpool didn't they? Lost, didn't they? If I remember. Yeah, Liverpool lost. But they lost or draw?
Yeah, they lost 3-2.
They lost, didn't they? I can't remember.
They lost to West Ham. Yeah,
so
there you
long
go.
ago. Yeah, such a long time ago, but it wasn't, was it? It was only like a week and a half ago. But you know, yeah. So I just think we have to do what we need to do. But December's an important period. If we can get out of December and still be top by 3, 4, maybe more points, then I'm looking, because I know January we've got Man City, Tottenham, and Liverpool back to back, all 3 games in January, which is quite crazy. But I still think the December period is important in terms of accumulation of points, and then from there we'll see.
Fair dues. Pice, do you want to sit on the fence like Jem has, or are you going to give us an answer?
Kind of sit on the fence. I mean, I do agree. I always say with a Premier League title, I always say, generally, if you're top by New Year's, you usually win it. But saying that, I mean, we was top at Christmas under Lampard, and then we completely capitulated. And I was like, yeah, we can win the league under Lampard. We got loads of youth players, we're playing well. And then it all capitulated. So I don't know. The one thing I will say is this team has the ability to grind out results, whether that be 1-0s or 2-1s, much more than a Lampard team, much more than a Sarri team. Yeah, it's kind of like the Conte team, you know, we can dig in. Unfortunately, Burnley got a late goal, but this is what I was saying. I wasn't too worried about Burnley because, like, as you say, as long as it's a one-off and we don't concede late on and, you know, like, they didn't look like scoring all game and then they just get a late, crappy little goal, which they literally put a swerve ball into the box, knocked it across and tapped it in. Like, what on earth is that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, generally, everyone really struggles to score against us. So if we can get Lukaku firing and scoring plenty of goals and our attackers stop getting injured, of course we can win the league. I always keep saying, these Liverpool fans keep piping up telling me they're winning the league. Once Mane and Salah go to AFCON, they're finished anyway. They'll be out of the title race by the time they come back. So, yeah, as long as Kepa's good and doesn't cost us loads of points, then I think we can win the league. It's just obviously City are so relentless at the moment that they are going to be on our tails the whole time, which is why sometimes I like to be sort of 3-6 points behind, because I kind of prefer Chelsea to be chasing something rather than leading something. I've always kind of preferred Chelsea that way, but we'll see. I do think the squad has the characters, the experience. I do think we've got the mixture of age groups as well. Like, I think our squad's very good. It's just, can we consistently grind out these results? You know, like the ones at the weekend after an international break. It's a 12:30. It's an early game. Do we go there and an away game? Do we go there and win? Like, that's the big question. Or do we go and drop points like we usually do? You know what I mean? It's these sort of games. So if I'm looking at our fixtures as well, I believe we play like Man United. Man United's a massive game for me as well. I know Ollie's, everyone's bantering him, including myself, but Man United didn't lose away for like a year and a half until like a couple of weeks ago. So they got this thing about winning away, and I don't want to draw that or lose that somehow, because Man United still got a very good squad. They're just in a rut at the moment. So yeah, I don't want to be that one of those games where Ollie stays in the job a little bit longer because Rashford scored a brace against us or something. You know what I mean? So let's just hope we can keep grinding the results, bro.
No, exactly that. United is a weird one because they're awful. But the problem is, out of the top teams in the Premier League, we suit them the best. Because the way Liverpool played doesn't... I mean, United obviously had a really bad day that day, but it doesn't really suit United. City are just... Their passing's too good for United to do anything. But with the way we play, where we dominate, but then don't take our chances, and then in the final third sometimes don't really know what we're doing, that's exactly the type of team United love to play against. Because then they can just defend. If we don't have a good day going forward, they can keep us out. They've done it on too many occasions, sure, helped by the referees on a lot of those occasions. But, who's to say that doesn't happen again? And then they hit us on the fucking break, as they do all the time. So I completely agree with Pice. We need to make sure we get a dub there because can't be having that again. Absolutely not. But you know what, Prashant? I'm gonna back it. If you're gonna just ask me plainly like this, do you see us winning the Premier League? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Part of it is that I think Liverpool will fall back a little bit when, obviously, during the AFCON. Touch wood, we don't. When Kepa is in goal, obviously, instead of Mendy. And City, I just think it's hurting them too much to... Well, I say, everyone says they don't have a striker. They do. They just choose to play him at right wing and Gabriel Jesus. Gabriel Jesus is a striker. Yeah, he's not maybe as conventional striker as Harry Kane or Romelu Lukaku, but he's still a striker and he's still a good player. But Pep Guardiola chooses to play him at right wing for whatever reason. I say for whatever reason, it's not like that bad, but you get what I'm trying to say. So I think that's a bit of a, which is basically the Premier League, all the media already getting ready for just in case we win the league. They have just because City haven't had a striker. So, they're already getting the excuses ready. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to round it out here because this has been a lovely chat. I don't think I've forgotten any big news that have been going about. We spoke about Rüdiger. We spoke about potential replacements. We spoke about Christian Pulisic. We spoke about Tchouameni. We spoke about Hakim Ziyech. So I think with that said, let's focus on the weekend. Like we touched on a couple of times. Leicester with the early kickoff away from home. But Leicester haven't exactly been great this season. So it's a bit of a different situation to play them compared to we played them last season in the FA Cup final at the last game of the season. So let's see how that goes. But ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate every single one of you that has tuned in, of course. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. Smash the like button for me if you haven't just yet, because there's definitely nowhere near enough likes, because I forgot to mention it since the start. So please do smash the like button. Really helps me out. Doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time. Just click that button for me. Check out Jem's channel down in the description below. Check out Pice on Twitter, and there also check out his website, to which you'll find the link on his Twitter. And the same goes for Clutch as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and I'll see you next time.